We have, of course, changed the lineup a little bit in the evening here. Rick Smith is kind enough to join us now as he is on the air with us in the evening, 8 p.m. right here on AM 950. Rick Smith, kind enough to join us. Hey, Rick.
Matt, how are you today?
I'm doing well, man. How are you doing?
I am fabulous. Looking forward to vacation. Looking forward to some warmer weather than 52. But wow, Minnesota 52 in December. Wow.
Okay, so let me tell you a funny story. My dad was up. He lived up in the north on the Iron Range up there. And one year I was up there in December, and it was like 36 and foggy, and the snow was melting. And my dad almost looked like he was about to cry. He goes, "This is so broken. It's not even right." I mean, in northern Minnesota, it should be really cold at this time, and it's just not even close anymore.
Yeah, again, something is seriously broken, and our folks in Washington are going to continue to make sure that it continues to be broken.
Until everyone, then all of a sudden, when everyone's sure you want to play the blame game now that we're all eating each other, but come on, I'm for solutions. Okay, great. Let's talk a little bit briefly here. You changed the show around a little bit. What's the whole plan on that?
Well, we wanted to get out and we wanted to do more on the ground stuff. We wanted to get out and travel a little bit more in the new year. So the idea was we're going to lean heavily into the TV show and video, but also to recording and being able to be away from the studio. As you know, it's kind of hard to be on the road and do a live talk show. So we decided that this year we were going to give it a shot and lean heavily into getting out and talking to people and telling stories and educating, inoculating and activating voters, because this upcoming election, kind of a big freaking deal.
No, and I think that their game plan is very solid. I mean, I'll give you a great point up in Brainerd, Minnesota, so a small town thing. But the grocery store workers up there are all going to go on strike because they're not getting paid. Now, this is a little bit of a story here in the metro area, but it's really not a story anywhere else. By getting out there into the public, you're able to find these stories and give them the coverage that they need.
Yeah, well, we want to talk about things that matter to working people. And what we found is, look, when you're doing a daily talk show, you're on the hamster wheel. So you're focused on the story that happened today. What's everybody talking about today? I want to take a step back from that and start looking at big picture stuff. Start looking at, how did we get into the mess we're in? How is it that President Biden, who has done, I think, an incredible job of ushering us out of pandemic era kind of policy into prosperity? Look, Donald Trump earlier this month in Iowa said, Biden's going to lead us into a depression. And yet today the Dow Jones hit an all-time high. But here's the thing. All you're going to hear, and I had people email me saying, Biden's going to lead us into depression. Even though this has happened, we don't have the megaphone, we don't have the platforms, we don't have the messaging to get out and share this. And this is why I think Biden's approval ratings are so low, because every day you keep hearing this assault on the economy's horrible, things are bad, it's all Biden's fault. Except when something goes good, something goes right, something is pointing in the right direction, well, not so much.
Well, no, that wasn't Biden that got the stock market. That was the Fed. Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. I see it. I will say that it is important as we're out there, hammering away. I will make this point because I've been looking at polling a lot. Polls today just do not register people credibly under the age of 35, and they just don't. And this Generation Z, they're going to change a lot of things. And I think, it's funny because they'll still put out polls that clearly don't seem to match the sentiment I'm seeing, but yet, and at the end of it, they kind of try to do a mulligan by saying, yeah, by the way, these last few years, the polling's been off because Generation Z hasn't been really registered that much. Late millennials, early Generation Z. I think that the reality is that Biden's doing a lot better than people are saying. It just is. There's no way. I think the idea of traditional polling is falling apart because it's not like you can just call people's phones anymore and just get them to get a solid demographic breakdown.
Well, but here's the thing. I mean, we still got to go out there and tell the story that this guy's killing it.
Yep.
I mean, for me, the biggest thing, and this is one of those hard to understand, hard to grasp kind of things because you're using scary words. The idea that he is moving us away from the last 40 years of neoliberalism, the fact that he's moving us away from what got us as a country into the mess that we're in, is a big, huge, transformational deal that in 20, 30 years, we're going to look back and go, this guy was one of the best presidents because he's put us in the right direction, talking about investing in infrastructure, reshoring manufacturing, and a lot of the stuff that's coming out of the NLRB and the Department of Labor, stuff that, well, the mainstream corporate-controlled for-profit media never really wants you to hear or understand. They want you to get stuck in the narrative that his polling numbers are bad, Matt.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, and I'll give you a modern-day comparison. Back in 2010, the Republicans ran and with media and control convinced people that Obamacare was a horrible thing. And the second all of a sudden Republicans went across the board, pretty much within a month, everyone's like, boy, Obamacare wasn't that bad. As a matter of fact, that should have been a signature piece of legislation. But unfortunately, too many Democrats bought the Republicans' talking points and ran away from what should have been their champion cause for the next 3 decades. Instead, they basically ended up torpedoing themselves for the last 10 years.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Obamacare was a horrible failure. It was terrible. But the Affordable Care Act was fabulous.
Whoever did that. Now we're talking. Exactly. Rick, Dean Phillips. He is my House rep, by the way, with redistricting. I was with Ilhan Omar. Now I'm with Dean Phillips.
Are we gonna fight over who has the worst representative? Because my representative is Scott Pardon Me Perry.
Is he? Oh no, you win. You win. It's like, hey, Dean is. I don't know where Dean's going, but he's not Perry. I will say that. But okay, I said this when he said he was going to try to run. If you're going to win the Democratic nomination, you need the union vote. Correct. I just do not see any way in the world that Dean Phillips was going to be able to pry the union vote away from Joe Biden. You've not seen any movement at all. When you talking to the unions, you're not seeing all of a sudden people saying, hey, I'm interested more in this Dean Phillips guy. It's pretty much they're all solid Biden voters, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see anybody going, gee, I'm in for Dean Phillips. I see people going, I see the Democratic machinery moving Biden along. I see my union brothers and sisters going, look, here's a guy who walked on the picket line.
Yep.
Here's a guy who put on Obama's comfortable shoes and found a picket line to walk on. That is a huge, huge deal. But more importantly, to me, it's a nice thing that he walked on the picket line. For me, it's who he put in charge of the NLRB, Jennifer Abruzzo. It's who's at the Department of Labor, Julie Hsu. There are so many things that he has done that can help working people by putting, people into positions of power who actually know what they're doing and want those agencies to work for working people. That is a huge deal. I mean, when you stop and you think about it, the Department of Labor, who were Trump's choices? If you remember, the first guy that they wanted to bring out was a guy named Andy Pudzer. You know who Andy was? He was the CEO of Carl's Jr. His great idea was to do away with all employees and have an automated kiosk restaurant so you didn't have to deal with those pesky minimum wages. And when he didn't get it, they went to Antonin Scalia's son, Eugene, who was a corporate lawyer in charge of the Department of Labor. What do you think you were going to get for working people out of people like that?
You bring that up, and that's one of the great things about Biden that I like, is that he's reestablished that you put people into place, and Obama did the same thing to a point. You put people in place that are experts in there, and you can look at his entire cabinet and a lot of the positions he's placed in the government. There are distinctly a lot of great people there that are the perfect person to have in that role. And
absolutely.
As you said, it's not any kind of kind of a nepotism sort of thing that you're getting. It's actual real results, and you can see how a government works. I mean, you brought up the stock market. We can talk about the unemployment rate. The government works. The country works when you have people in place that are competent and can run it.
No. Even more than this. Even more than that, and that's important. But the big thing is people who want government to work, people who believe in the power of government to make lives better, the people who believe that when we all collectively come together, we can do great things. We keep voting for, some people keep voting for Republicans who tell us government is broken, government is bad, government can't do anything, and then they set out to do exactly what the House of Representatives has done or not done over the last year plus, and that is gridlock, destruction, nothing for working people getting done. And, the rich people are happy because status quo benefits them, lines their pockets, makes sure that none of those things that you and me and our families need get done, like the child tax credit. That didn't get renewed. Why? Republicans didn't want it. And they're never going to pay a price for it because there aren't enough Matt McNeils out there saying, hey, this was a bad idea. Republicans did this. Republicans hate working people. Look at what they did. They hate children, too, evidently. Look at what they did.
Well, and you're spot on, and we need more Rick Smiths out there. Rick Smith, of course, joining us 8 o'clock weeknights right here on AM 950. So I want to bring up something that it's a union issue, it's a labor issue. One thing it's been hitting here in Minnesota because there's been the Washington Post expose on Bemidji and the post office up there. DeJoy, when he came in as the postmaster general, I think his initial plan was to kill the post office, but it became the realization is you really can't do that. There's just too many people that need mail, and these private companies were just not going to deliver mail to rural areas because it's not cost effective. So they changed the plan, and the plan now seems to be to basically sell out the postal workers, turn them into delivery people for private corporations, and in turn run them ragged. Some of these out, especially in these like a Bemidji, which is up in the northwestern part of the state. It is the main hub up there, but it's kind of all by itself because they're delivering all these packages for Amazon and for UPS and all these other delivery services. They basically can't get the mail delivered. And in some places, mail is not even getting delivered but once every 2 or 3 days because they're constantly delivering private companies' packages because DeJoy has sold out the postal workers for basically the private companies.
Well, I mean, privatization was always the goal of the Postal Service. And look, I still believe it is. I believe, they want it to be the private carrier of Amazon. And this is part of that. This is part of getting us used to not getting our mail, normalizing the fact that it's going to take a while. The Postal Service doesn't run really efficiently because they got rid of a bunch of people. They didn't hire enough seasonal people. So if you're wondering why your Christmas present's going to be a little bit late, that's a big part of it. If you're wondering why that Christmas card's not coming, that's really a big part of it. But this, again, is when you put someone in charge of an agency that doesn't believe in its mission, which is to ensure that every person in every home in every part of this country gets their mail. What do you expect, Matt? I mean, these are people who do not believe in what they're doing.
Well, and it really is pretty atrocious. You want to know a reason? One of the things you can tell the Postal Service is getting mismanaged. They've run out of stamps. The holiday stamps. They ran out of How do you run out of holiday stamps? You can sell them next year, you idiots. I mean, it is amazing to me how badly it's run. But once again, this is one of the things, and we've seen this with jails, hospitals, schools. The Republicans look at that big ball of cash out there, try to figure out any way possible they can get it in the hands of private business owners at the expense of all of us, and it ends up getting us a 10 times worse product as they promise us it's going to work more efficiently. It never does.
No, it never does. And look, I talk about privatization all the time, and these schemes that keep coming up from, as you pointed out, prisons and roads and water and sewer and electricity and all our utilities and all the things that in past years we used to do as a matter of course for ourselves. And now what we have is we have a system set up where private interests, corporate America, they get to cash in, and it's even getting worse than this. Our homes are being bought up by giant hedge funds.
Yeah, you brought this up, the Hedge Fund Control of American Homes Act of 2023. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, I mean, finally someone has realized that, a handful of people are controlling a large market of the single-family homes.
Yeah.
And for the average person to be able to go out and afford, a reasonable home today is almost impossible. And this is where the frustration comes in because, the sad reality is working people are getting screwed over more and more as we talk about it. But what you had Jeff Markley, who we've had on the program a couple of times, and Adam Smith of Washington. They came out with the End Hedge Fund Control of American Homes Act. And this idea is within the next 10 years, the hedge funds who have bought up more than a quarter of the single-family homes in this country, they're going to have to sell them all off within 10 years, or there are massive fines and massive tax penalties and all kinds of stuff that go along with this. Because this is the bizarre part. I was watching, what was his name? Alex Rodriguez, the baseball player from the Yankees. I saw an interview with him. He says he himself and his little group own 150,000 doorknobs. That's how he put it. They weren't homes. They weren't family homes. They weren't places where people lived. They were doorknobs. And those people are paying him rent and his group rent. And, it's what's going on in just about every neighborhood in this country. You have these groups that are buying up homes, and they look so innocuous. They see look almost down home, handmade kind of signs, Bob's Home Buying. It's all backed by hedge fund money. It's all backed by billionaire money who are trying to take over and, get you to pay more. Because, hey, look at how much rents have been jacked up.
Yep.
Do you think that just happened? No, a large driver of that is these people want more money. They're greedy. It never ends. And this is why I love Bob Casey, the senator from my state, who's been doing these reports on greedflation, pointing out the fact that corporate America has been screwing us over this whole pandemic while mega morons are going, it's Joe Biden's fault. No. It's who we knew it was from the beginning.
Yeah.
It's the corporate profiteers who, in their shareholder meetings, were actually bragging about how much they were screwing over consumers.
Wow. And you brought the home thing. I remember there was a friend of mine, they had their house bought, and they thought it was a couple. It was like Mary and Bob Watson. And when they got to the signing for the sale, it was Mary and Bob Watson LLC, which was owned by another thing. The company had presented them as just a couple buying the house, and then they found out, oh, no, it's not a couple, it's a corporation. Yep. And they'll trick you anyway, but you're spot on. And one other thing, too, if I may, it's not inflation if every company is getting record profits. That's just plain good old-fashioned greed. That you cannot have inflation and record profits at the same time. Those two things do not work together. It's greed. Absolutely.
Amen.
Yeah, Rick, it's always a pleasure. I'm glad we have you on in the 8 o'clock hour. You're fighting the good fight. You're bringing the good information, and God bless you on that one. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time today. Everyone listen to his show at 8 o'clock tonight, and happy holidays, Rick. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Matt. Appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you again.
Talk to you soon. Rick Smith, the Rick Smith Show, 8 o'clock tonight. Make sure you're listening. You will be smarter. 952-946-6205. It's the Matt McNeil Show right here on AM 950.